signatures of the consultants are there.
Welcome to the February 27th edition of Colorado Inside Postgame, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on a judge's ruling this week that the city of Aurora did not obtain the needed voter approval for a tax increase for the Gaylord Rockies Hotel Project. The lawsuit alleges Aurora violated the taxpayers' Bill of Rights when it held an election to raise taxes on the parcel of land in question and only required the vote from the one person who lives on the parcel. Patty Calhoun from Westward, I'm not sure if you can even write this funny, but it just came off that funny. Is Aurora going to lose this? Are they going to win the appeal? They're really going to, is the whole Gaylord project hinging on one vote?
Well, you wonder just how hard the campaign was to get that one person to vote that one way. At this rate, it looks like we will have the stock show break ground on their expansion in Denver before we get the Gaylord project even breaking ground, when that was supposed to be, the project that was going to rustle away the stock show. It is ironic that it's Tabor that is now rearing its ugly head, because there have been several other legal challenges to this. But I don't think Aurora's going to win. I think this will wind up going to a vote of the people. The people of Aurora might very well support it. If they go the way, the majority did on the last vote, the one person, they could still win, but I think it will wind up going to a vote.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School, one of our two esteemed attorneys at the table. So when it comes down to this lawsuit, what chances do Aurora have of winning the appeal?
The Colorado higher courts have often been hostile to Tabor, so they certainly have a chance. And a number of Colorado court rulings have been pretty flagrantly contradictory to the actual text of the Tabor language. So I wouldn't rule out Aurora's possibility of winning. This one-person election was not just that they happened to convince the one guy who by accident lived there. The one person who was allowed to vote was a guy who was designated by the corporate welfare recipient to decide if this corporate welfare scheme would be a good idea. Law can be complicated, but I think the average citizen can also say that when you have an election involving enormous amounts of money going to a special interest, and one person votes on it, there's something wrong with that. And if it's the taxpayers' Bill of Rights, which puts a stop to one man, one vote only elections, that's a great thing, and it filled a gap in our Constitution. I don't think the Tabor was enacted with that specific extreme scenario in mind, because nobody forecast that some local government would be audacious, so audacious as to have a one voter election. But as it turns out, the prophylactic protections of the taxpayers' Bill of Rights once again come to the rescue of the democracy in Colorado.
Penn Tate, attorney at Greenberg Traurig, also a longtime state lawmaker. Not sure if you're going to see Tabor in the same light that
There's
David did.
no way in the world I'm going to do that. What I will say is one of the problems, Tabor has played a role. Whether it has served a beneficial purpose is a subject for debate. We can debate for hours whether we need an artificial constraint on what government can spend when you've never raised taxes, increased taxes, or changed tax policy, but it's a function of economic activity. But be that as it may, the court issued its ruling. This is high-stakes poker for Aurora. They've got to appeal. I don't know what the higher court is going to do. Again, because this was citizen-initiated, there's typically no parameters and sort of no legislative history. So the courts for the last 20 years have been interpreting what Tabor means, because there's no other way to deal with it. It was just dropped in the Constitution out of context. We'll see what the higher court does. If it ends up that Aurora's got to go to a broader vote of the people, I'm betting dollars they'll do it, because there's too much invested in this. The financing from the State Economic Development Commission is lined up. They'll run the campaign. They'll take it to the citizens of the city. And my guess right now is that Aurora residents will probably approve it.
Mm-hmm. Eli Stokels, political reporter from Fox 31, also an anchor on KWGN. Is Aurora in for a bigger fight now that they try to kind of go around this the wrong way?
You never know what a court's going to do, but I think that they can. Tabor, the irony here is that Tabor is sort of the rationale for looking at something that on the face is just absurd and saying, okay, you can't do it that way. We've got to, you got to go back to the people and actually do a real vote. But I've seen courts also look at just the letter of the law and take a real strict interpretation and say, as ridiculous as it is, and not really worry about the real world consequences as much as it's within the letter of the law. So we'll see what happens. I mean, personally, I just am curious who the hell this guy is who lives out there. Maybe we should go to a TV store profile on him and see him. I'm picturing him like on the porch, with like the Deliverance music playing. But, I think that just the ultimate, there is a lot invested here. So the ultimate question is, does this project get done or not? And if that does go to voters, this is the kind of thing where it just starts to feel like some witch put some curse on this project, and it just keeps getting messier and messier and going sideways for the city of Aurora. They've invested a lot of money. They can probably spend a lot of money on a campaign and convince voters there, taxpayers there, that, hey, this is good for all of us. But there's also a sense if it gets mishandled, if the city's, as David said, audacious enough to do something like this, there may be a sort of backlash. And so it may be just that much harder for citizens out there to say, yeah, okay, go ahead, do this project, let's give all this money to Gaylord, when, there have been all these things leading up to it that just have not been done the right way.
That's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment and tell us what you think. For everyone here at Colorado Public Television, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks very much for watching.